And what was also cool about the Ichiro movement is during an era like the steroid era and home run bonanza, you have a player like him who is so unique and distinct and does it differently than so many other players.
And at that time, Kev, with the steroid era, like he was just a complete opposite of what we were seeing. You know, in that same year, 2001, Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs. So like,
you are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's Game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs or Carl Crawford,
we're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
And every season except for 2024, the Rays have gone to the playoffs, but you can still grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, and subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
All right, Ulises, do we have another breaking report of the days since the bonds have passed?
Wait, I think we're getting it right now live. Yeah, let's see.
Yep. 30 days since the bonds were approved, and still not much from the Rays. There are some developments on when Tropicana Field could be repaired, or maybe not. That'll be something that we get to next week, as well as Taylor Walls and the Rays seemingly settling their differences. So we will get to that.
38.
Week. Yeah. But we more so today on a Fun Friday wanted to spotlight the Baseball Hall of Fame inductions and voting. So we have some new members joining the hall, and that is one of my favorite players of all time, Ichiro Suzuki. Then you have CC Sabathia and Billy Wagner. 10th year is a charm. 10 years of waiting, and he finally gets in with 82.5% of the vote. As a reminder, you need 75% of the vote to get in. Really, the biggest storyline in all this is who was the goofball that did not vote for Ichiro? Ichiro got 99.7% of the vote, one vote short of unanimous induction, similar to Derek Jeter. So the only gentleman who holds that honor of unanimous selection, if I recall, is Mariano Rivera, and it will continue to be that way, I imagine, for some time now. But that was pretty crazy because, honestly, frankly, well, I guess one side of me said that, yeah, there's going to be one dude that wants to make it about him or make some sort of statement or do what really isn't right at the end of the day and not give Ichiro that 100%. Then the other part of me was like, nobody can really be that ridiculous, can they? But evidently they can. But at the end of the day, whether you get 75% of the vote or 90% of the vote or 99.7% of the vote, they still call you a Hall of Famer.
Yes. To the last part, yes. However, you think there are slam dunks in life, and life just keeps slapping you in the face saying, nah, fam, it ain't like that. And for this one, you think Ichiro Suzuki, like it's not I think usually with the whole, movement towards analytics and seeing players' value a little bit different than it was in the past, when you really bear it down to the Hall of Fame, it shouldn't just be about numbers. It should be like, besides the numbers, what was the plus of this player? This is a museum, right? So can you tell the story of Major League Baseball without this player? How much impact did this player have? Ichiro Suzuki, his impact, not only on future Japanese players, which now is on a very present conversation right now with what's happening with Roki Sasaki, but it's only with the Japanese players being successful in MLB and him winning that Rookie of the Year and MVP in the first year. But it's also the fact that if you grew up in that era, which we both did, we were both 10 years old when he made his debut,
right?
9 years old. Everybody, Kevin, and I can tell you, in at least 2 countries, and I know that for a fact it would be more than that watch baseball. In at least 2 countries, every kid that cared about baseball would imitate Ichiro Suzuki.
Yes.
100%. The batting stance, everybody did that. So the impact of his legacy is so huge that you would think, okay, this guy is just unanimous. 3,000 hits. He came when he was 27 years old. And he still got the 3,000 hits. And yet there's one person, Kevin, who just always will be that guy. And we got it this year with each year.
And I don't know if we know who that is, because the voting isn't public, which I think, frankly, it should be if you are bestowed this type of honor. So I don't care if you're a blogger with Fangraphs who has a vote, or somebody with the New York Times, or a radio station or a television station, whatever it is. I think all the votes should be public. In the NBA Times, they're usually pretty transparent about what their 2 voters put forth, Mark Topkin and John Romano, which I'm sure we'll mention who they ultimately selected. Really with Ichiro, and you hit the nail on the head with all of that. I mean, when he got called up and established himself very, very quickly, everybody wanted to be like him, emulate him, and he had so much working for him. I mean, you have the first name on the back of the jersey, the batting stance, his approach, the cannon arm, the fact that he could use the bat any way that he wanted. He was going
as an extension of his own arm. The bat was just an extension of his arm. It was incredible.
Essentially. Yeah, it really was incredible. And he made history because he was the first Japanese position player to make it to the major league. So he was that frontiersman of sorts that paved the way for others. He didn't have a booklet or a manual or anybody to lean on to say, oh, so-and-so, had success as a fellow countryman, as a hitter. And he didn't have that experience. So he created that experience all by himself. But if I was to, and what was also cool about the Ichiro movement is during an era like the steroid era and home run bonanza, you have a player like him who is so unique and distinct and does it differently than so many other players. And I think people could relate to the fact of he wasn't a big hulking monster with the head the size of a watermelon. He was actually pretty lithe and small. I mean, they listed him at 5'11". I don't know how accurate that is. They listed him at 175. I don't know how accurate that is. I mean, if I was to ballpark it, he was probably like 5'9" and a half and 155, something like that. Like he was pretty well fit when you look at it.
And at that time, Kev, with the steroid era, like he was just a complete opposite of what we were seeing. In that same year, 2001, Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs. So he was just the antithesis of what was going on in baseball, and we needed that. I mean, 10 straight seasons with over 200 hits. That's just ridiculous. I mean, endless gold gloves. I mean, his impact, his legacy is so huge that you would really have – I had a tough time thinking, no, there's no way there's going to be one guy. Like maybe, but there's no way. And boom, there was that one guy. So yeah, we put it out there on X. But before we get to that poll, Kevin, I think we really should tell folks something very important.
Yes, we need to tell folks about Select Quote. Well, what is Select Quote? Select Quote they make it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 worth of coverage, $700 billion worth of coverage since 1985. And what sets SelectQuote apart? It's their personal touch. Unlike some of those other brokers out there that may offer one-size-fits-all policies, SelectQuote's licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. So if you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you might think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead, get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/locked-on. Go to selectquote.com/locked-on today to get started. One more time for the folks in the back, selectquote.com/locked-on. That's LOCKEDON. SelectQuote. They shop and you save. All right, Ulises, as you were mentioning, we did put a poll question up there, and it reads, with Ichiro falling one vote shy of unanimous selection, should the Baseball Hall of Fame make all votes public? 94.1% of the populace says yes, they need to do that pronto. 5.9% say no, and then 0% say they're unsure. So it's overwhelming yes on that front. And yeah, with Ichiro, I guess if you were to try to formulate an argument why he perhaps doesn't deserve unanimous selection, which I think works in his favor, the fact that he played till he was 45, 46 years old. I mean, that's insane from many different perspectives. But the fact that, once he hit 36, 37, he wasn't the same Ichiro. But how many players, when they hit 36, 37, are the same? So, I mean, he could have retired at that age, more or less, and I still think would have been a Hall of Famer. But because he did have a downhill fall to some extent as far as his productivity level, I guess that would be a black mark in some people's eyes. Sort of a similar situation with Andrew Jones.
Yeah, I think maybe that's why he's getting dinged, Andrew, because it's like a cliffhanger. It's like going off a cliff with Andrew's production.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think we both stand on the same side that he should be a Hall of Famer. But with Ichiro, you can maybe, I'm trying to make an argument, which is very difficult, on why he shouldn't have been on that guy's ballot. Another thing is a compiler, maybe the compiler argument that, hey, he just stayed in the league and that's why the numbers are so bloated, which to me, I don't understand why that would ever be a problem or a negative towards a player. Because what that means is that team that is hiring that player that's 40, 41, 44, 38, 39, whatever that age is, that team is saying he is more valuable to us in this 25-man roster back then, or in this 26-man roster, than any dude that we could be paying less to.
Right.
But
unless you're the Marlins that might say, we honestly don't care what we get from him on the field. We just want to get the recognition when he ultimately gets 3,000 hits in our uniform, and that adds some prestige there. But I mean, you can't argue with 10 All-Star appearances, 10 gold gloves, and so many other records. Yeah, that's
crazy.
That's what's really. I mean, maybe the voter was mad that Ichiro never learned English and had to use a translator. I don't know what is in some people's heads there, but there we go. That's who we have in the Hall this year. Ichiro, CC, Billy Wagner finally getting in. I think we had mentioned on previous iterations of a show like this that Billy Wagner, for all that he accomplished, you have to look at relievers, starters, position players differently, and Wagner was one of the best of all time at being the closer, plus being a left-handed hitter and a small guy throwing 100 miles an hour, all of that. I do want to note this. I just found it interesting to mention the local reporters' ballots. Mark Topkin, who's reaching back into his 27th, 28th year of covering the Rays. His ballot was very short this year. It was just Ichiro. it was just Sabathia and it was just Wagner. While John Romano was a little bit more liberal with his selections, he's went for Bobby Abreu, who continues to get disrespected, just garnering 19.5% of the vote on the 6th season of him being there. Carlos Beltran, Felix Hernandez, who I believe gets the Venezuelan bump from you. Short career, but good in what he did. Dustin Pedroia, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, and Chase Utley. So John Romano definitely may have included some guys with checkered past, to put it nicely. But yeah, that's what we've got. And from what I understand, before you answer that, I think next year, I have not seen the full list of what it will be next year, but what I've heard and my understanding is it will be relatively thin on the newcomers. So, I mean, just looking at things right now, it would seem like Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones at 70% and 66% of the vote should probably squeeze in next year. But I just wanted to make that as an aside.
No, 100%. I agree. With the Tampa Bay Times voters in Romano and Topkin, it's so cool to have two different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
One is a small hall guy with Topkin's ballot only having 3 names filled out, and Romano is a little bit more of a big hall guy.
Yeah.
As per his voting ballot. I don't think, again, I think people take the Hall of Fame a little bit too seriously with the integrity clause. We've talked about endlessly. The integrity clause is only there to harm players, but it's never up there to lift up players. You know, I've never heard of a guy saying like, yeah, he kind of has the numbers, but he was such a good clubhouse guy, he's a Hall of Famer. So the integrity clause is only used negatively, and I don't really like that. I've made that point. With the next class being light, like you say, it might give folks some time to peruse the what ifs, the Felix Hernandez, the Bobby Abreu, which obviously, like you said, the Venezuelan bump is there. I'm happy that Bobby's getting a little bit more love each and every year. I just don't think it's going to be quite enough. But it is nice that I think there's a movement on social media that compares him with Ichiro and Tony Gwynn. And it's really interesting when you put those two guys together, and Bobby has better numbers combined in some categories than both of those guys.
There we go. And then there is a Rays tinge to all this. There were 2 former Rays players on the ballot. Got to go way down the ballot to see them, though. Ben Zobrist and Fernando Rodney, who received 0 votes. So they are absolutely off of future ballots.
Would you have voted for them if you were a Tampa Bay beat writer? Would you have voted for either Rodney or Zobrist?
No. Hall of Good, Hall of Very Good. I would vote for Ben Zobrist in the Rays Hall of Fame one day. And Ben Zobrist was, revolutionary in the aspect of being a true utility, versatile guy that I think the Rays were, kind of on the come up with that. Okay, yeah, we'll have him play corner outfield. We'll have him play some short. We'll have him play some second base. And he put together some really good seasons as a 3-time All-Star. I mean, what was it, the 2009 season where he was a damn 9-year-old player? But I think some of it too is the fact that, and ultimately the numbers don't really go, baseball Hall of Fame worthy, but just my recollection of when Ben Zobrist was on the Rays, because the Rays were, so good during that period, he got overlooked. When you have an Evan Longoria and you have a David Price and you have a Scott Kazmir and a Carl Crawford and a Carlos Pena, you have all these guys that, I mean, if we are looking at, jersey and merchandise sales, I would imagine, Zobrist during those days might be 4th, 5th, 6th versus, number 1, number 2. Not saying that, is the end all be all for being a Hall of Famer, but,
even BJ Upton would get a little bit more press than Zobrist.
Correct.
I 100% agree with you. And I think I understand the argument that some Rays fans have been doing on social media, which is like, oh, come on, you got to vote for the hometown kid, like at least one vote so that it's not like a shutout. I don't partake on that, because then what I'm saying is that my vote is more emotional than logical, and
then rational. Correct.
Irrational, right? And I think ultimately that's what should win this out. But I'm with you. I think if there's a Hall of Fame for the Rays, one day, and its name is up for consideration, I 100% think that people should put green Skittles, that he would be in the Rays Hall of Fame, and they should put a green Skittles on FanDuel, people, because from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. And the FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and there's a variety of bets to keep every game exciting. So today, visit FanDuel.com, join in, get started. And again, $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, before we get to baseball trivia, name that war on a Fun Friday episode, I do have a FanDuel quasi-related question for you regarding the Hall of Fame and the Rays as well. So I am going to give you an offer, hypothetically, and it is this. So if you gave somebody or made a bet with somebody, this somebody, not me, but somebody out there, they say, Ulises, for $2,500 cash right now, I want $2,500 cash right now. And in the future, 15, 20 years from now, that $2,500 cash could turn into $1 million if one Rays player on the 2025 40-man roster is inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it's a bet, it's a gamble that, it's basically putting your $2,500 on Caminero.
Basically, I'm thinking, is there one more than Caminero? And it's basically like maybe Shane McClanahan?
Yeah, but he's got some work to do. They all have some work to do. Because even you could be a guy like Hanley Ramirez, who has a great career for a long period of time, and you don't touch the surface. So it is very difficult, as we know, to make the Hall of Fame. But $2,500 cash for the chance to get $1 million back if one Rays player on the 2025 40-man roster makes it into the Hall down the line.
I mean, you have to. If you have any sort of hope in Junior Caminero, that's exactly what we want him to be. So
and again, he could have a career like Evan Longoria and still won't get in.
And you know what?
So you're expecting
Scott Rowland might have opened the door for a very interesting conversation for Evan Longoria, and then hopefully Junior could get in there. Yeah.
So my guess is you would or you wouldn't front the money for that bet.
Okay, let's do it. Let's have fun. Why not? There you go.
I can take cash, Venmo, PayPal, whatever you want.
There it is.
All right. So here we go. Baseball trivia. Name that war. My trivia question to you is this. It is Hall of Fame related. I just got to pull it up on my phone like I had to pull up the Topkin and Romano ballot. Sorry, I've been scrambling today. I've been trying to get my crap together. And so I was looking at, of course, with Ichiro being in the Hall of Fame, and you look at some of the years that he played, and he would have 760 plate appearances, just crazy number of plate appearances, which, mind you, not to mention the amount of hits he had, but the few amount of strikeouts he had. Like, you're having 760 plate appearances, 260 hits, and 60 strikeouts. It's really unbelievable from that perspective. But in front of me, I have a list of Hall of Famers who have compiled at least 12,000 plate appearances in their major league career. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Out of those 14 players, I want 6 names.
So I just did a quick calculation here. 12,000 divided by 600 plate appearances would be 20, which means that they would have to at least 20 years of.
And I'll give you a little freebie here. So Ichiro is not on the list. He had 9,934. So these guys well surpassed the amount that Ichiro had.
Let's go with the easy number one, Pete Rose.
Pete Rose is not on this list because he's not in the Hall of Fame.
I forgot about that little query in your question.
Yes. Hall of Famers.
Hall of Fame
with the most plate appearances.
Asterisk on that answer. Okay, well then let's go with Ty Cobb.
Ty Cobb, there we go. Number 4 on the list with 13,103. I need 5 more names, and you have a strike to your name.
Okay. Leadoff hitters that stayed playing for a long time. Let's go with a guy that we just spoke about for a whole episode, or at least a segment. The best leadoff hitter in baseball history, Mr. Rickey Henderson.
Rickey Henderson is number 3 on this list with 13,346.
Okay. Another guy that very rarely got hurt until the end of his career, which he, I think, 1 season. And he's a Hall of Famer, and he has 3,000 hits. And he loves pasta. Derek Jeter, pastadizing Jeter.
Yes, Derek Jeter is about midway down the list with 12,602.
Okay. How many do I have left?
I need 3 more because you got Jeter, Cobb, and Henderson, and then you missed with Pete Rose.
Let's go with Mr. Brave Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron is number 2 on the list with 13,941.
If you hit 660 home runs, you probably had a lot of plate appearances, and that would be Mr. Willie Mays.
Willie Mays is, yes, on this list right behind Derek Jeter with 12,545.
And
One more name I need.
And if you love meat, if you love cigars, and if you love a beer, and you have 700 plus home runs, you're Babe Ruth.
I thought you were going to say Wade Boggs, but Babe Ruth, he is not on this list.
Damn, Daniel.
Yeah. Crazy.
So strike 2?
Strike 2, that is correct.
Okay, so we've got 12,000 appearances. You know who made his debut in 2001, and his last season was not this season, was not last season, was 2022. So he played 21 seasons, and he was named the Machine. 700 plus home runs, 21 seasons. Let's go with Albert Pujols.
Albert Pujols is incorrect. Strike 3. All right.
Maybe he batted too much 4th and 5th. And
that's probably it. Here we go. Here is the list. Carl Yastrzemski, Hank Aaron, Rickey Henderson, Ty Cobb, Cal Ripken Jr., Eddie Murray, Stan Musial, Jeets, Willie Mays, Craig Biggio.
Hey.
Surprising name. Dave Winfield, Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, and Adrian Beltre.
Very nice question. Love that question. Hopefully you enjoy my Name That War. I went to 2001, Ichiro's first year in the league, and I saw his teammate and I saw Venezuelan bump next to his name. Well, for Name That War, which is when we take a player from the past and we try to guess their career war according to Baseball Reference, using only our Baseball Archive mind, today's player is Carlos Guillen. What is his career war according to Baseball Ref?
I believe he played for the Tigers as well to some extent. I think he played a couple of different positions. Had to be in the league at least a decade, maybe 12 years. If I had to guess, maybe 1 All-Star appearance, 2 max, perhaps. I think he was kind of similar to Ben Zobrist in the respect that he was probably overlooked by some of the talent that was on his team. But I don't think Guillen was as good as Ben Zobrist. Guillen to me screams like a 275 hitter, 18 to 22 home runs. Really don't know much about his defense. Put that together over 12 plus years. I will say his career WAR is 24.6.
Carlos Guillen played 14 years in the league for the Seattle Mariners and the Detroit Tigers. Yeah, right. He moved around a little bit, even left field, second base, shortstop mostly. His slash line, 285, 355, and 443. So that's a 798 OPS, an OPS plus of 111 in his career. 124 home runs, so he was averaging around 15 per season. This man was never told not to steal because he stole 74 bags and he was caught 47. So maybe somebody should have spoken up there and told us, hey, let's not. You don't have the verde, bro.
No verde.
Rojo. You wrap all of that up, and his career WAR is very close, but a little bit more. 27.7 WAR for Carlos Guillen.
All right. Yeah. How about that? Hope you all enjoyed. Again, we will have some more in-depth discussion on the Rays next week and beyond. In the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you next week.